tank focused on providing the latest updates on the construction industry in India and is dedicated to promoting its causes and the needs. The council is a platform to promote the adoption of best practices and be the torchbearer for the policy initiatives that are needed for the welfare of the construction industry. So the council is governed by a board of governors who are distinguished leaders, industry leaders like Mr. D.K. Sen from Larsen and Toubro, architect Hafiz Contractor, Mr. Pradeep Singh, former VC and MD of IDFC Bank, then Mr. Vinayak Pai uh, of Tata Projects, Mr. Sanjay Seth, Senior Director, TERI, CEO and CEO of Griha Council, Mr. Sandeep Singh, MD, Tata Hitachi, Mr. Subodh Dixit, former Executive Director, Sapoji Palanji, among others. So members of the council benefit in more than one way. This includes industry networking opportunities, knowing consumption trends, understanding the market conditions better, and access to growth opportunity. And how do members achieve all this benefit? This is through white papers and the research reports released by the council and various webinars, conferences, and industry award ceremonies that that we host throughout the year. Last month, on October 10th and 9th, we had Construction Council's the 14th Rasta Expo at Geo Convention Center, Mumbai, for road construction equipment, technology, and materials. More than 100 leading exhibitors from construction equipment, material, and allied equipment industry showcased their innovative technologies and sustainable practices used for road construction. Rasta Expo brought together road contractors, developer, financials, manufacturers, equipment OEMs, government authorities, and engineering firms on the same platform. The expo attracted more than 4,000 quality business visitors who had a fruitful discussion with the exhibitors. So the uh, Rasta Expo was held as a part of 10th India Construction Festival, comprising events such as 14th Rasta Conference, 12th Equipment India Awards, and 22nd Construction World Global Awards. So you could see the glimpse of the event on your screen. With over 50 speakers, participants gained valuable insights to engage in panel discussion, thought-provoking keynotes, and displays of cutting-edge innovation at the event. The 10th India Construction Festival awarded over 75 companies from infrastructure industry. Mr. A.M. Naik, Chairman Larsen and Toubro, and Mufat Raj Monot, the group founder and group founder chairman of Kalpataru Group, were bestowed with the Construction World Lifetime Achievement Awards for their incredible contribution to the growth of not just their companies but of also of the industry. India Construction Festival also witnessed the unveiling of Tarmac to Tower, India's Infrastructure Story, a book written by Mr. Pratap Patode, founder of First Construction Council. This book captures India's infrastructure journey and highlights importance of policy making and execution in nation building. It attempts to inform, explain, and give expert insight into how realistic is India's aspiration to become a global power. So on screen, you could see the events that are lined up in the first quarter of calendar year 2025. So first we have the third Metro Rail Conference that is going to take place on January 23rd in Mumbai. Then we have AI Data Center Conference on February 12th at the Radisson Blue Hotel in Mumbai. Then we have Cement Expo Forum on March 5th and 6th in Hyderabad. And we have many events lined up for 2025. The list is on your screen. And today's virtual interaction is also a part of Council's endeavor to create a knowledge sharing platform for the industry. So if you want to be a part of First Construction Council, drop us an email at contact@firstconstructioncouncil.com. So coming back to the topic of discussion for today, the Union Government 2024 has laid out a comprehensive roadmap for that aligns with India's commitment to achieving a net zero carbon footprint by 2070. Real estate sector, the second largest employer in India, accounts for over 22% of all national emissions. Therefore, green buildings are essential for India to achieve its long-term goal of becoming a net zero the support for nations increasing has the support the nation's increasing urbanization need while reducing the environment impact. To understand the uh, importance of green building in India and in India's changing construction landscape and business opportunities in this segment, we have experts. Rather, we are supposed to have three experts, but unfortunately, Mr. Mandeep Singh of Casa Grande could not join us because and the medical emergency. So we have two experts today. Dr. Sunita Purushottam, Head of Sustainability and CSR from Mahindra Lifespace Developers Limited, and Mr. Puneet Agarwal, Senior Counselor CII, Indian Green Building Council. So on behalf of SF, I welcome our guest of today's. I will just stop my sharing. So before I welcome our first speaker, Dr. Sunita Purushottam, few words about her. Dr. Sunita Purushottam is the head of sustainability and CSR at Mahindra Lifespace Developers Limited. She has over 25 years of sustainability strategy and environmental consultancy experience in the areas of environmental impact assessment, air pollution modeling, greenhouse gas emission inventory, and carbon offsets. She has worked with regulatory bodies in UK and in India in various infrastructure development projects covering environmental impacts and mitigation. So with this, I would request Dr. Sunita to take over the proceedings.
Hi, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Uh, I would need to share the screen. Just bear with me for a moment. Yeah, I hope my screen is visible.
No,
Not yet.
not yet.
Just bear with me for a moment. Now, visible, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I will be talking about how green buildings actually can help save you money and where the returns and to whom the returns come to. Uh, Taking you guys through our journey as Mahindra Life Spaces. A little bit about the company. Mahindra Life Spaces is a real estate developer. We are into residential buildings and integrated cities and industrial clusters. If you might have heard the names of Mahindra World City Jaipur or Mahindra World City Chennai, this is something that our company does quite well. We have industrial clusters such as Origins Chennai, and we are developing more. And we also do a lot of residential projects all over India, namely in Mumbai, Pune, Chennai, Bangalore. Okay, so that's currently our areas of work. We have certain developments in Jaipur as well as Delhi and Nagpur. So that's the overall, spatial footprint that our company has. So we have been a real estate company that has taken sustainability very seriously, not only in India but globally. Mahindra Life Spaces is known amongst all thought leaderships, think tanks, and funding agencies for doing sustainability since a long time. We are the first real estate company to publish a sustainability report way back in 2011-12. And so this is our 13 years and above journey. We have a 100% green portfolio since 2014. We have till date saved several million liters of water by helping consumers conserve water, diverting waste away from landfill, and we have diverted over 1.5 lakh tons of waste diverted away from landfill through the various stages of the construction activity, and around 7,500 megawatt of annual energy savings, helping consumers save energy, and paving the way for carbon neutrality through our actions in terms of impact over the 13 years of our sustainability journey. The company itself is over 25 years old. Um, this is the estimated cost of growing green in way back, and since the title of this conversation is about going green, cost of going green, and savers. When you had to do a project in 2016-17, basically the estimated silver base minimum is 1 to 2%. At that time, gold 3 to 5%, and platinum 6 to 7%. This was a study done by IGBC in 2016-17. But this can be bettered, and we can reach silver by meeting only the environmental clearance conditions now. So that means it is a mandatory requirement. Base silver can be met by doing only what law is telling you to do, or what NBC is telling you to do, if you follow it in the spirit. For gold, a 1% project cost estimation, and platinum 2 to 3%, right? So that's what is the kind of cost that is expected. Here we have looked at some of our critical new projects, where Eden is India's first net zero energy design multi-family residential high-rise home, and the incremental cost that we have got is 0.71% of the COC. For just doing a gold rating, it is 0.16. Nestagia is a project in Pune, and affordable segment is 0.28. We have done several interventions over there. Other projects done by IGBC earlier showed that villa projects, probably the interventions are much higher in terms of costs. And over the years, we see a decreasing trend of of the incremental cost. So what we can say, that the cost of going green in terms of the cost of construction is less. For external projects, we are seeing 1 to 3%. In MLDL, we have rationalized it to 1. Incremental cost is lower if the base design has factored several green features through design. So what it means is you cannot do the so a lot of it is on design and site selection, right? And also how you are able to work with the land. So design is very critical, and when the base design itself is has factored green features, then the incremental cost of doing engineering interventions reduces. So one must actually look at tackling green right up front than doing it at the end of the project. So when should you do a green building work? Right when you are going and selecting a site, right? So that is very important. Green building benefits to customer. I think average annual cost, maintenance cost savings is in the range of 15 to 80%. It definitely gives you healthier and more comfortable living environment. For developers, it's enhanced brand reputation, and it's a key product differentiator. For the environment, of course, it's climate resilient home, low carbon footprint, carbon mitigation, and so on. It actually is heat resilience and flood resilience for the customers, that actually we say it is protecting the environment. It's actually not protecting the environment. It is the humans that live on this earth need better buildings. Okay, and that is why the benefits of green building are actually with consumers. The approach is, like I mentioned, site selection and planning, water efficiency, energy efficiency, materials, and the indoor environmental air quality. So basic efficient planning strategies have to be put in place, and home user guides must be given, because ultimately the use of that building or that facility has to be done by the end user. Differently able design, EV parking, basic walking. So basically, designing for walkability is important. Heat island is critical, and I want to touch upon heat island because we tend to concretize everything. Integrating green in the landscape and integrating green on roof not only have a heat mitigation effect, but it also reduces the intense impact of flooding that we are now seeing in urban areas. And planning for green areas and reduced concretization reduces the embodied carbon of the overall project, cost of the project. So upfront cost can be saved by integrating nature more into the projects. We mentioned about site selection and planning. We are looking at, how flood mitigation can be done. So historical flooding events have to be studied at a particular location. Climate scenarios have to be considered and integrated into design. It appears to be very difficult, but there are now maps available. There is a site called Climate Central that we look at to see whether that site that I'm going to is going to have a flooding risk or not. So there are many tools now that are available for flood risk assessment, and you can find. I have mentioned Climate Central, but there are other tools that can help you. Understand flood risk of a particular location. Understanding groundwater recharge potential is very critical, because where will water come from? What is the water unavailability challenge at your particular location? Is the municipality willing to give you that water over there, or is it going to be only on paper? What is the ground reality? If you have to do sustainability, these conversations are critical conversations to have to ensure that water secure developments are there. We are now seeing a huge amount of concretization and very little mother earth left for preserving, conserving, and regenerating. Earlier, the FSI used to be zero point 0.7. Now the FSI is 4 and 5. And if you look at the UDCPR, it is looking at end-to-end construction for even the last bit of FSI. Where will you plant the trees? So the strategy has to be adopted by the developer that we have to preserve what is there at site. At least try and preserve the heritage trees, enhance and improve the biodiversity by native and fruit-bearing trees. Have a policy around how to enhance the biodiversity. Compost, make your own soil, create eco habitats and urban forests, protect and retain the tree and educate, eliminate use of artificial pesticides, and integrate food farming into your projects. And so on. Introduce small interventions such as bird baths, maybe beekeeping, protect the natural grass and reduce turf. So these are all need to be integrated for enhancing biodiversity. Site selection and planning, we are looking at customer benefits, especially now that senior citizens are, part of every family. We really can't design only with stairs. Differently abled spaces must be there in our projects. We also have to look at permeable grass pavers, green cover for regulating temperatures, and the high solar reflective rooftop paints for better physical and mental well-being. Why I'm saying physical and mental well-being? Because when the temperature is high and the home itself cannot regulate its temperature, it is nature actually, because of the blue-green cover, that the temperature gets regulated. And concrete absorbs a lot of heat and gives that heat out. And when the heat is given out, it is night. When at night time you're trying to sleep, and most people nowadays don't know what is how to open their windows at night because of mosquitoes. So when you do the night flushing, your home actually gets flushed out from all the heat that the concrete has absorbed. So concrete as a material is creating a lot of sleep related challenges, and hence impacting mental and physical well-being of homeowners. Similarly, insulation is not there in the roof. So I'll come to it in some time. We are looking at flood resilient buildings, water discharged into ground, for secure developments, recharging of water, and biodiverse rich sites. These are pictures from our sites where we have preserved the biodiversity. We have actually taken the turtles to a particular location in our project office and kept them. There were some turtles in our one of our sites. And in terms of the what you see on the left, dedicated bicycle parking and electric charging facilities should be put up in all projects. And water efficiency can be achieved through rainwater harvesting, limiting turf, native species, efficient irrigation systems, sewage water treatment, and recycling of that water. and most importantly aerators and low flow flush fixtures. And these numbers are not something that are out of the blue. It is tested across projects, and we look at achieving these savings provided people don't remove the low flow fixtures that we have put. So I'm talking about water related savings in the range of 4 to 26 rupees per square feet in the annual maintenance costs. Okay, so if you don't have recycled water for flushing, you'll actually use it from the you'll actually use it from the fresh water. And fresh water, to make fresh water in that quality of water, is energy intense, right? And therefore demand reduction, and hence the low flow fixture is very very critical. Energy savings can be achieved only if you have a proper wall roof assembly. What is your walling assembly? Does the roof have insulation? Does it have SRI paint? Does your wall have effective shading? Because we are using a lot of glass, and glass is not effective material because it traps in the heat. We never had glass windows in India, and now we are using glass windows without shading, thinking that it will get daylight in. But that is not the case. Effective daylight or wall to window ratio should be lower than 30%. Okay, limit that wall to window ratio, because the moment you get heat in, we will have to put air conditioning or some kind of cooling to cool that space. And glass brings that heat and traps it in. And these glass windows are not fully openable nowadays. This leads to a additional cost burden to the homeowner and to the country for consumption of cooling energy. So increased cooling energy demand is what we are looking at. Effectively, for common areas, we should have lighting. Not so LED is very cost effective, but nowadays we see, because cost effectiveness of LEDs, we see lot of LED lighting being put in place. Earlier, where we used to have one bulb, now we see 10 bulbs lighting up one space, right? And so lighting power density कि कितने bulbs होने चाहिए एक जगह पे. And likewise for star rated pumps, motors, and efficient lifts, because of high rise. So energy demand reduction, if you work on it, up to 33% of energy demand can be done through proper climate responsive design, natural ventilation. Nowadays we see absence of cross ventilation. How the wall to window ratio must be, building must be oriented correctly. We cannot have windows in east and west. We have to have windows only in the south and in the north. Windows in east and west will bring in a lot of heat. Split windows in east and west is recommended, nothing more. Nowadays buildings are being designed without shading. There are guidelines for shading and how the shading must be put in place. There are guidelines for daylighting. And believe me, in India we have a lot of light, and hence do not design buildings for daylight, because we have actual abundant light. Even if your window is at 1.2 meters, I'm sitting in a room which has a window at 1.2 meters. So we do not need floor length floor length windows to get daylight in, right? Because what it will do, it will get the heat in. So we need adequate size windows and shading. Energy efficiency on occupied spaces, we can look at BLDC fans. So suppose in a house you have four rooms where you have to put fans. So say total number of fans required is five, because drawing rooms have two fans. And if you were to look at the energy consumption of fans throughout the year of 8 to 10 months where fans are being used, you can actually have energy savings from changing to efficient fans up to 40 to 60% of, as opposed to conventional fan. LED has now become a baseline, but we also have low carbon cooling options, or at the most go for 5-star AC and run it with the fans. AC has to be run at 26, 27, 28 degrees with fans for effective cooling and effective energy saving and thermal comfort, right? Let us not have 18-degree AC with a blanket that used to be used for winters, which have now disappeared. So we should also look at our behavioral pieces, and how we must look at how do we use the appliances within our homes. 5% to more than 5% can be put in a building, in our homes. Remaining we can obtain from grid. Now in Karnataka and Maharashtra and some other states we can actually demand renewable energy power from the grid at 66 paisa to 50 paisa per kilowatt. And if you do that, then your entire home will be net zero energy. Materials and resources critical. 75% of our building materials must be within 400 kilometers and they must have recycled content. Construction waste management is very critical. We need a plan to see how we'll manage and look at the construction waste. When it comes to use phase waste management, we have to look at waste segregation, and that is every citizen's responsibility, and aim for 100% composting at site. These are some of the customer benefits associated with the annual maintenance cost savings: primary waste segregation, wet waste composting, and dry waste recycling. Quite a lot, isn't it, that we can save? I was talking about healthier spaces for maximum daylight, fresh air ventilation, and when it comes to smoke free and low VOC paints, this should be a norm in every home, a retrofit that we do or a new building that we do. Indoor air quality is often not understood. There are many things that emit VOC, including furniture, upholstery, as well as pillows, clothing, anything that is not a natural fiber can be treated with HBR and various other types of flame retardants. They are treated with flame retardants and with various VOCs. So they emit. These VOCs actually harm your, they are neurotoxic in nature. The other thing that impacts indoor air quality is fragrances, right? So this is a summary of customer benefits associated with a green building in terms of annual maintenance cost savings, in terms of percentage, and in terms of overall, per square feet. So if you have a 1500 square feet apartment, see the amount of savings you can do. Mahindra Life Spaces is a company that has taken a pledge to develop only net zero buildings from 2030 onwards. We have already started this journey. We launched India's first net zero energy building, Mahindra, at Bangalore, and then Vista, and then Zen. Vista is in Bombay, and Zen again in Bangalore. This is overall impact in terms of energy, water, waste, and biodiversity preserved at site. These are good benchmarks to see where the projects are. So you see, the first project is much better than the other two projects, right? But in the other two projects, we aimed to do waste related diversions as well. These are some of our certifications, and we have two thought leadership partnerships for sectoral decarbonization. One is the Mahindra Terry Center of Excellence. It is a R&D facility to, it is actually a net zero building to test building materials. Now, why should we test building materials? Building materials are the ones that keep you thermally comfortable, right? And therefore, does the material have that property to give you that thermal comfort? So whether it is glass or whether it is concrete, whether it is a puff insulation, all vendors go to this center to understand what is the U value, kitna heat transmission hota hai, ya R value. Okay, how much transmission is happening and how much, how much it can avoid, from the external surface to the internal surface. Over 250 building materials have been tested here. We also do research on visual comfort and develop several guidebooks and toolkits and research papers to be used by the sector. We want all developers, these are developed by us, but we want other people to develop, to read it and use these guidelines when they design buildings. We have a platform which we have co-founded with EcoCollab, WRI, and AEEE. It is called the Decarbonization Business Charter for Building and Construction Sectoral Decarbonization. It has got over 85 signatories. What do signatories do? They, they refer, they commit to the 6 priority actions aligned to net zero, contribute to the implementation or collaborate, report or disclose, share impact. Signatories include everybody: low carbon material manufacturers, MEP firms, sustainability consultants, architectural firms, green building rating agencies, technological solution providers, and developers. There are several developers on this platform, including Lodha, Tata Realty. There are material manufacturers like JSW. There are asset owners such as Lemon Tree who are on this platform. So that brings us to the end of the fun of doing green. I will pause here now.
Thank you, Dr. Sunita, for your excellent presentation and giving us really the benefits of green building and what Mahindra Lifespace is doing in this area of activity. Obviously, there will be few questions for you,
So
but hold.
questions are fine, and I'm also open to having my email address shared, because we would want to share about the decarbonization business charter to the participants. And if people want to understand more about Mahindra Terry Center of Excellence or join the decarbonization charter, I'm happy. I'm happy to drop my email address here.
Yeah. So you can drop your email in the chat box, and we will take questions from the audience after we have our second speaker
Sure, I
present
will
his
go
thoughts.
on mute. Thank you for the
Yeah,
opportunity,
yeah,
Rakesh.
yeah. Please be with us.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah. So I would now like to welcome our next speaker, Mr. Puneet Agarwal. Mr. Puneet Agarwal is an associated with Indian Green Buildings Council, part of CII, since 2014, an accomplished green professional with 18 years of expertise in dynamic intersection of techno marketing. Mr. Agarwal has made an impressive mark on the sustainability landscape, having contributed to over 850 projects, including monumental structures like the new Parliament Building, Central Vista, and more. He specializes in guiding projects team towards achieving their environmental and green building aspirations. So with this, I hand over the platform to Mr. Agarwal. Over to you, Mr. Agarwal.
Thank you, Mr. Rakesh. Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to share. And thanks everyone who has been taken out their precious time with us to talk about how things can move in these green, climate resilient work specific to the building industry. So just wanted to have a confirmation that the screen is visible and I'm well audible.
Yes, Mr. Agarwal.
Okay, thank you. So we have been thankful to the First Construction Council for giving this opportunity. And as far as the agenda is concerned, what we have been going to talk about in the next 15 minutes about the financial economic benefits of a green building. What is the regulatory landscape for any projects? What are the incentives available? And ultimately, and critically, the challenges and opportunities. And I've been very thankful to Dr. Sunita, who has been taken up the first session, and many of the things have been already clarified. What is the green building certification? What are the different components to it? So about IGBC, we have been a part of CII, Confederation of Indian Industry, as we have been aware that CII is the not-for-profit organization working in building the country as the leader among the globe and providing a platform for an interaction between the policymakers and the industry stakeholder for a wider adoption. We have been at one of the center of excellence who's been deep dive into the environmental activities in the micro activities, buildings, plants, manufacturing setups. Those have been our headquarters located at Hyderabad. This is much more easy to say anything to talk about things, but how to implement, what are the challenges we need to get, which we should address in the time coming for. We developed this, our headquarters based at Hyderabad, the first platinum rated building, the greenest building for some time across the globe. I would request all of you to please come and make a visit. We have been expecting some 3,000 to 4,000 visitors every year for this particular project. A very excellent example of how the our ancestors' wisdom with amalgamation of the state-of-the-art technologies can do the wonders. In 2017-18, we have started working on converting our own building into a net zero energy building. Proudly said, 2019, we have been at the design platinum net zero, and now we have been currently operating at a net zero status, generating more energy, what we actually consume on an annual parameters. With the first certifying agency, also been the part of a World Green Building Council, which is the apex association of the Green Building Council with the 70 countries and representing the country in the global platform as far as the green building is concerned. What we started with our own building at 20,000 square feet, we are currently working with more than 12 billion square feet, 14,600 projects. And this has been possible because of the support of the people like you who have been having a vested interest, who's been pushing us to do the greater work or the recognizing the great work which has been done by you. Now, as a matter of fact, that the two different typology of projects cannot be evaluated, at the right parameters. So that is why the council, with the support of stakeholders like you, we have developed, say, as good as a 32 different rating program. Many of them would be the first of its kind, especially in the transit, especially in the built environment. And so that we can evaluate those building projects based on the performance and the requirement rather than any other certification which may not do the justice to the investment made for the upgradation of any building projects into the green building. These are just few numbers to make you aware about that in what vast areas IGBC has been working. And here is the important slide. So mentioning that how this green building value proposition changes over time. Whether it has been about the branding or the green image, what people have think of now. But that was the scenario in 2003, 2004 when we came up. The project's been considered to be a green. Okay, we also need to open up to the Western countries, inviting investment or the projects. So let's operate into a green building, or let's develop our building as a green. But the knowledge on the green building certification have been very, very limited. There have been the ecosystem developed around that time has been very low. And gradually the things have started changing when the people have started seeing the benefits, both in terms of the development as well as the consumer in terms of energy, water and material aspects. They thought, okay, green image is fine, but because of it is saving, there are major people who have been shifted during this particular frame. And from 2014-15 onwards, the things has been changed drastically. Now, by this time, the people are also been well aware about the green building certification, their benefits, and then they wanted these things to come up with us. They wanted to invest in the project which has been rated green. They wanted to open their offices, places which has been rated green. And this becomes a key differentiator between a green and a non-green. And that gives a well required push to the developers to develop these projects, to the corporate sector to upgrade their projects into a green building. And then the journey what we have started, the exponentially from 2014 onwards, there is much more to go, much more to cover. Now, going forward on the benefits, what Dr. Sunita has rightly mentioned about the tangible benefits on energy and water, there are been case studies which says, okay, what Dr. Sunita has mentioned, that in case we have been taking up the due consideration at a design stage, the passive elements of the building design, our incremental cost would goes down drastically. What you mentioned about 1%, which I still debate, it should be certainly less than a 1% or so. And in certain cases, we are also been experiencing now there would be a reduction in the initial investment. It means with the due planning and development approach, the green building development cost would be relatively lower in comparison to the similar size of conventional building. Now, these are what we talk about the tangible benefits. So the intangible, maybe the lower absenteeism in the offices, a better health and well-being of the occupant. They have been having a sense of completion in contributing to the climate mitigation impact. Having an enhanced score in the SDGs and ESG scores going in. So those have been the benefits which you can drive. The one important aspects of the government incentive which has been tagged with the star, I have leave it for a pause for a couple of later slides for the time being. Now, see this. The construction activities, which many of you have been from the sector, they have been completely agree with me that there have been multiple challenges as far as the regulatory framework is concerned. Now, what I have actually noticed that there would be the involvement of 15 to 20 or different departments, central and state different level, along with some close to 35 to 40 different clearances need to be required, the compliance need to be showcased. A few of them have been mentioned here, and those have been fairly very challenging in getting those clearances. Because they have been going, only few of them would run parallelly, but otherwise majority of them runs one after another, which would actually consume a lot of time, and the time is the essence in the construction industry. So this is one point I wish to mention over here. And similarly, there have also been the challenges as far as the project team and the licensing team is concerned, the design team is concerned, that what all codes have been available. The different codes talk about different lines. We've been having a National Building Code 2016, which is recommendatory in nature. We have the ECBC 2016, a mandatory one, EC for the Eco-Nivasa for the residential projects. We have MOE of certain guidelines. We have Plumbing Code of India, so CGWC guidelines. So, along with that, the PCBs and CPVC guidelines. So these guidelines which need to be followed. So how things can be better, because we need to make the life of our people, the project planning people, a much more easier. While we have been looking at all those different guidelines, we need to understand how the green buildings actually aligning with all these guidelines. And the beauty of IGBC guidelines is that whatever is the basic requirement required for the project, those becomes the mandatory requirement. Mandatory means that if those were not fulfilled, the certification is not possible. Now, then when the certification would happen? One, when you have been meeting all these mandatory criteria. Second, we have been doing much beyond the requirement of these mandatory criteria. Then based on the achievement, based on the percentage improvement, there are been certain points which would be awarded. And on the cumulative score, there would be a rating which is decided. Currently, IGBC, we have 4 rating labels: certified, silver, gold, and a platinum. Certified being the lowest, platinum being the highest one. Now, when there is a common understanding, okay, when we have been opting for an IGBC certification, then these basic guidelines would become mandatory, and projects is bound to follow these guidelines. Then there is a very interesting thing happened in 2011. 2011, it was the time when the environmental clearance from the Central Committee would usually take 12 to 18 months, which is the long period. It is not about the compliance, it's about getting the hearing. So the Ministry of Environment Forest, they have come up with the guideline, with the notification mentioning that in case any project is opting for our IGBC rating, let's give them out-of-turn hearing. Now, this out-of-turn hearing means that their application would be heard by the committee, those who have been involved in the environmental clearances process, that their application would be heard out of turn, but they have been still bound to follow the rest of the procedures on the compliance part, and thus there have been a lot of advantages. Now, this would be again a very big game changer for the industry to opt for the green building certification, because their primary motto is to get the environmental clearance hearing done beforehand, and then they started looking at. And gradually, as the knowledge and the interest of the developers has increased in the subject, the many of them have been taking the first movers advantage and getting their building project certified with IGBC. So this is one kind of the incentive which were fairly prominent in 2011 till 2014-15. And then there have been other typologies of the incentives which has been given by the government of India. Now, these have been the incentive given by the government, the state government and the central government, is because of they have understand the value these certified projects adding to the environment, one. Second, how they have been reducing the stress on the municipal services, because by design and application, they have been saving close to 30 to 40% of water, so 20 to 30% of our energy. So the stress on the municipal corporation services would be eased out. And to promote these things, they have been willing to offer these incentives. These incentives are of variety of nature for the variety of people. It starts from having the additional FAR and FSI up to 15%. For an end user, they have been saying, okay, if someone who's been buying any property into a green building in certain states, they have been offering there would be reduction. It's a 3-year reduction in the property tax and the 1% reduction in the stamp duty. The hotels and industry, they are also been started getting their own requisite incentives. And importantly, the new entrant is from the financial institution side who have started offering certain discounting of a 0.25 to 0.5 BSP in the home loan to the end user in case they have been buying property into a certified or a pre-certified IGBC residential projects. Now, as we all are being aware that development and the real estate urban development is a state subject, and that is why there has been a variance of these incentives given. While the property tax stamp duty reduction has been applicable in the state of Kerala, but in a Gurgaon NCR, they have been usually offering 5 to 15% additional FSI. But things have been changing. What we have been experiencing earlier now, the reduction in a property tax and a stamp duty to empower the end user is going to be the next big thing happening in the near future. So this is how all the government incentive usually works. Now, on the challenges and opportunities, what Dr. Sunita has rightly mentioned about the cost implications. So when we did our building projects in 2001, inaugurated 2003, we have spent say around 18% more. But at the same time, she also mentioned two important aspects, that whether we should be looking at the development cost or we should be looking at the overall life cycle cost. I think that is one of the reason what the people need to understand to widen their vision and look at the complete life cycle analysis. The another important aspect is that what all features are already incorporated by the design stage. So there are been multiple measures which can be incorporated without any additional cost, zero additional cost. And yes, there would be certain measures where you need to enhance the capacity, maybe for the sewage treatment plant, maybe for the rainwater harvesting, maybe for the renewable energy. Those would be a little cost-intensive projects. The small sub-projects for the large residential commercial development. But yes, whatever is already been incorporated by the design side, whatever it has been mandated by the law of land, the incremental cost can be considered only the top up of it. What additional we have been doing rather than calculating the entire cost. Now, this is what has already been looked upon. From the 18% we have been currently in 2017-18, what we will looking at is somewhere around 1.5%. Now, I also having a thing that why there is a reduction in the cost as far as 18% to 1%, how this has been done. The reason is very simple, because the ecosystem, gradually the ecosystem has been developed. Now, when you develop a complete ecosystem where you need not to go outside your geographical boundaries, then obviously your cost would relatively ease. The second is the kind of skills is required, the kind of experience people are required for designing and developing of these projects. Those are also been available based on the demand. Second, the system softwares, which are playing a very important role in the design aspects, the kind of commissioning activities what we have started making it. Those makes a lot of difference. And yes, obviously when the demand goes up, the cost of the material comes down. And that was the case in the green building segment. And then now we have been claiming the incremental cost could be less than 1%. And in certain cases, it would be less than the conventional building. Now, so I'm just going back to this slide because a prelude need to be set for the next slide. Now, we also understand that in case there is a project is a big one, the economic of scale actually works, and then the incremental cost can be reduced to too much extent. What I have been going to show you, and then again, there is a differentiation between whether we have been developing commercial project, whether we have been developing a residential project. Commercial project, everything run on an ROI. The residential project having all different kind of geometry in between, because the developer develops trade-off, end user come in, developer goes out. So he would be more worried about the first cost analysis rather than the operative cost. But this particular project, which has been coming on the next slide, is a very small project, only 86 dwelling unit, located at Chennai, and they have done a study and analysis along with us, and then we look at that what would be the green investment. Now, the green investment, as far as the project is concerned, is somewhere around 20-30 lakhs, close to 2% of it, 1.8%. But the payback period is less than a year. Here, my point is that in case a very small unit can spend, say, 28 lakhs rupees, which in turn comes to be somewhere around 35,000 rupees per dwelling unit, I think that would be the bare minimum cost you may like to indulge in then converting your project in a green. The advantages is not only in terms of the reduction in the energy and water, but when there were the drought conditions happens, when everyone has been looking at the tankers, this particular society has not invited a single water tanker for the daily needs. So that was the biggest advantage. Where there is a crisis, the cost of saving, the opportunity cost has been relatively very high. So we need to look at from that aspect. But the overall agenda or the overall idea of showing this particular project to you is that even in a very small multi-dwelling project, these things are possible without much of the additional cost. So that's my point I wanted to mention. There is another thing which we mentioned earlier about, will not go much detail into this, but one is the green financing options. There have been multiple line of credits available globally. Those who have been promoting the energy efficient green building projects, particularly to the residential segment. And we have been fortunate to be the part of the two such credit, which has been governed by the National Housing Bank in India, and majority of the fund available for IGPC. Now, there are two things which they usually give these finance companies line of credit. Is one, the customer who have been buying the properties in those projects, they would be getting certain incentives in terms of loan ROI discounting. The developer would also get benefit to get at a relatively lower or a ease term of financing. So these are the two benefits are being availed by the project and the people. Now, ESG is a big thing which has been coming. Everyone has been talking about things. And when we have been looking at the compliance mechanism of IGPC rating systems, what we understood is that for the environment side, we have been completely in. For the S side, there are 1 or 2 points which we are not addressing, and a G points, yes. Because for the governance is not been currently correlated with the green building certification, so it has been close to 30-40% area which we have been covering as far as the rating system is concerned. So there are many organizations as of now who wanted to improvise their ESG, and having this green building component in their portfolio is actually adding value to enhance their ESG score. And these are not been for the large developer organization RAIT, but also been the organization who have been taken a space in a building and then going forward for their ESG score calculations. Even those small leased spaces in a multi-tenanted projects can also opt for a green building certification named as IGBC Green Interior. This is one important point which many of you may like to note. The benchmarking is different based on whether it is a complete building or a leased spaces. But yes, the performance-wise, the outcome remains the same. So you would be dealing and then closing those things. And for easing out the financial institution for the financing and then pushing for the financial benefit to the end user, IGPC is continuously working on the many financial institutions to provide some kind of a soft loan support to the construction industry, be it the developer or be it for the end users. So those are some of the glimpses you have been seeing here. So this is all from my side. Another on the cost component of green buildings, the two critical factors which I would like to mention here once again. One is it all depends on whether we have been considering the first cost versus the overall life cycle cost. The second important critical component is what all measures we have incorporated at a design stage. Because the more we have been incorporated, the more we have been doing things on the drawing board, it is much more easier and cost effective on the actual site. With these lines, I would request you to take certain steps while going forward in this. And also, this is our building. I would once again invite all of you to please come and join us and have a visit. It usually takes 30 to 40 minutes to visit the entire building and then look out how our ancestors' wisdom has been incorporated in these building parameters. Thank you very much. Over to you, Mr. Rakesh.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Agarwal, for your excellent presentation. So with this, we open the stage for any questions. So I don't see any questions in the chat box. Okay, nobody has raised their hand. So let me take this opportunity to ask a couple of one question to both of you. When you take a green certification, IGCP or anything, is there a need to renew it after a period of time?
Yeah, there is a need to uh, renew it. So first, I'll tell you the process from a developer perspective. It is a pre-certification that we take, and then after the building is completed, we take the final certification, and that is valid for 3 years. And the housing society can then go for renewal of that green building certification, or they can go for a RWA certification, the Resident Welfare Association certification. And because it is a green building, it would be easy for them to apply for the RWA certification. Okay,
Uh,
so we typically take that certification pre and then do the final certification and hand it over to the customers. Yeah. Puneet, you had a point.
no, I just have one point. It's not the RW because RW is actually the association when with the people duly
Sorry,
elected.
sorry,
And
sorry, sorry. It is
GRS, the
it is
Green
called
Residential Society.
green. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's synonymous in my mind.
Yes,
It's
yes,
Green Residential
sure.
Society certification. Sorry, that
Thanks,
let's
thanks,
get the
Vincent. Thanks.
terminology right.
Yeah.
And if we do a city, Rakesh, if we do a city, then we because we are operating and maintaining the city, we will renew the certification. And there are certain people who want to also take that green building certification for a longer time frame. So it depends on the development and whether you are going to do the operation and maintenance of that project. Say for example, if you are in a large township and you have certified the entire project, then probably, and if you are maintaining it under ITP, if you are maintaining the project for a long term, then maybe it will still lie with the developer in terms of renewing the certificate, green certification. Yes, there is a validity because many of these are operational related, data related, and we need to ensure that continuously the data, the benefits of that project is maintained in terms of behavior. So, for example, waste segregation होते रहना चाहिए, right? और नहीं तो sometimes residents, I mean RWA stop certain activities for cost savings and so on. So we'll have to ensure that it continues.
So anybody wants to ask any question,
Yeah.
please go ahead.
Yeah,
Please
I would like
introduce
to
yourself
ask.
and ask.
Yeah, my name is KN Rao from My Home Industries. My question is that in the presentation we didn't discuss about the life of the building. When you're going into the platinum rated buildings or going to net zero buildings, when we are thinking about that, we are not given the benefit. What is the real benefit in terms of life of the building? Life. What is the structure life? Something which is going to be appreciated by the customer. Second thing is the lifespan of the people who are staying in the building. They're saying there is a qualitative statement. We are saying we want to improve the health and in terms of durability of the building, which we should be able to substantiate some percentage, which ultimately that justifies the additional cost. What initial cost if it is high also. If we say that I'm getting into a building which is having a 10% extra life or a 20% extra life, and also so these the that ultimately justifies that additional cost what he is going to incur.
Okay, Mr. Rao, see, you have responded to your questions by yourself. So you mentioned that that what happened to the enhanced lifespan, and these are all been the qualitative, not the quantitative data. See, these kind of there are been studies happened at a smaller level as far as the offices are concerned, that how the productivity of a person can be increased, how the people have been able to showcase their enhanced cognitive ability while spending certain time in the green building. So those studies can be shared with you offline on that front. That's one part. The second part is as far as the building life is concerned. So structural stability, though it has been a very critical and an important aspect of a building itself, and that is been predominantly governed by the government regulations. We have been there as the sustainability partner. We have been there to enhance the sustainability questions and the measures incorporated in the building project. But the structural as well as the fire you missed, but the fire safety, those have been very essential element and the critical element for any of the building projects which need to be looked upon separately, because that's a much bigger, much larger subject. So these are my thoughts. Sunita, in case you wanted to add on something on this before we switch to Ritik questions.
No, I think you have covered the points.
Yeah. So I see one hand raised, Mr.
Yes, sir.
ROC. Mr. ROC, can you introduce yourself?
Arasu.
Yeah.
Sir, I am Arasus, basically civil engineer. Sir, in general public, regarding fly ash brick, they are thinking that when compared to clay brick, it will not breathe. That's why radiation will be more like that. People are thinking. So that many people are not come out to convert clay brick to fly ash nowadays. For that, what will be the technical support? And another question, for recycling material, green building like AAC block, fly ash, brick, glass, these are all the coming under green building materials. Okay, for that, why government is not supporting by reducing the taxes? It will be encouraging the people and giving more awareness. For that, the forum can take necessary steps.
Mr. Arasu, I couldn't understand the first question because the voice was breaking, possibly a network issue at my side or your side.
Sir, yes. Many people are thinking that fly ash brick will give more radiation rather than clay brick, because clay brick is a traditional one and it has some breathing effect. Like that, people are discouraging the materials, recycling material, clay brick. Ash brick, fly ash brick.
So you've been saying that clay brick has been scrapped out, or the fly ash bricks?
No, I think what he's asking is comparing two bricks, clay brick and fly ash brick, and there are certain concerns being raised about fly ash brick that they radiate more heat, right? That's what your question is?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah. So I would just reframe the question is there any when it comes to bricks, is there any kind of a parameters described in while getting the green building that this kind of bricks will have better green effect than the other kind of bricks?
Okay, see, I think I can respond to the questions originally and the rephrased one as well. See, there are two things we need to understand. First is the green building certification is based on the performance. See, what would be the overall performance of the building as far as the energy efficiency is concerned. In case we have been looking at the envelope of a building, we would look at what are the overall thermal properties of the building envelope. Okay, so how we have been able to achieve those properties is up to the project, and it has been left to the wisdom of the project and designers and the product supplier how to achieve a certain technical criteria. Achieving that technical benchmarking is up to them, so that their innovativeness and thoughts would not be suffered because of the green buildings. So this is point number one. The point number two about between the clay brick and the concrete. See, there has been a difference between uh, I'll give a very small examples. May not be appropriate. We have all been walking having the shoes. Morning workouts usually have the shoes. There are been a different kind of a shoes available. The qualities are different. Even a same brand would have the multiple qualities of multiple products. Same goes with this the bricks segment also. We have bricks, we have concrete blocks, we have AAC block, we have the other multiple technological interventions. So whatever is the best suited, and then again, what kind of a content you have been putting in, what is your base material, that actually depending on what is the actual strength of that particular material, that particular brick block. So earlier, when this concept usually came in, we also heard of the cases that the people have been putting a nail onto the wall to hang the TV and the nail both comes out because of the strength of those AAC blocks were relatively poorer. So if we have been judicious enough to take a right call of a right product, I don't see any of challenges would come into the picture. Clay bricks are not been advisable because of multiple reasons. One, they have been fairly dense, consuming the natural resources. Their thermal properties are not that good. Third and important aspect is the moment we have been going with the high res with the clay brick, my dead load goes up. Now, once my dead load goes up, I need to strengthen my structure once again, which would again are cost effective. Third and less important, somewhat having a little importance in this sector, the kind of a construction time and the labor and the mason required for placing the AC block wall and the clay block, there is a lot of difference between the two. So that is why this AAC blocks has been make its own ways in the high level projects. There are certain challenges, availability of these AAC, right AAC blocks in certain region in the country. There, yes, the things have been in progress. As the demand progress, I think the availability would also be ensured by the people. So this is what my thought process is.
So there is one question from Ritik Jain. He is basically asking, can you please let us know the procurement process, how the procurement process works for searching the eco-friendly material for your construction? How do you find the right supplier? Dr. Sunita, would you like to take this question?
Puneet is smiling. How do we find? Okay, so the thing is IGBC Congress. Okay,
So is
so
there any resource? Is there any place where you have this
IGBC
list?
Congress is one place where we go. It's become huge now, and I feel I can't do justice to the Congress because this is the kind of resources you will get. The cards that you will get from that place to explore, and then there is work after coming back from the Congress that who किसके साथ बात कर रहा है कहाँ से. Apart from that, we are also tuned into the startup ecosystem. So there is sustainability mafia, then there is Brigade Reap, then we also have our startup roadshows that we come across. There are many investor juries that happen where startup funding happens. So tuning in, and now I'm talking about startup. So the kind of thing that we are seeing is innovation, lot of innovation coming from startups. The challenge is that startups don't have that. The sometimes they find it difficult because. Most of the time they find it difficult because piloting is who's going to be the first customer, so you have to work with them. So we have a platform called the Decarbonization Business Charter. Again, there are startups over there. So we try and showcase them to the developers onto the platform. So where do we find them? They find us, we find them. We bump into each other, and then we talk about it, and then we do some pilot, and then we get it tested in the TERI Center of Excellence. So it's an ecosystem. So it's important to have that ecosystem. The other is we are keen, we are very closely watching the global scene. Okay, sometimes ideas come from outside. However, the question that we ask is it made in India? Can this be done here? Can it be localized and so on? Otherwise, it is very difficult to take technologies from abroad because fit for purpose, Indian climate, Indian conditions, it's better to work with Indian startups. And vendors who can actually do innovation here, many of them are doing good business also, not from the startup. So we are keyed into that ecosystem.
So, yeah,
Thanks.
yeah.
Just one point I wanted to mention. See, there are two questions. How to find the eco-friendly material is doable. There is a site called greenpro.com. There we have, I think, covering around 97-98% of the construction product material, where you can find out what is the right product. But how to find the right supplier, I'm leaving this on the wisdom of our procurement people. Because product is good, supplier we don't know. So that will not into it.
So I'll interject over there because it is an interesting question. So here we work with capacity building of our procurement team. आप fit for purpose और business related aspects आप test करो, site visit करो, factory visit करो, देखो whether it meets the financial criteria. For example, what happens if we have taken the supply of the new material and it is the supplier is not there suddenly? Okay, so all of that the procurement team has to do. So engaging the procurement team into this process is very, very important. Okay. So we work with the procurement team and we also give them some work कि आप इसको टेस्ट कर लो ये ठीक है क्या. क्वालिटी टीम आती है, मटेरियल बराबर होता है कि तो पूरा एक प्रोजेक्ट टीम का विजिट होता है कि ये मटेरियल बराबर है कि नहीं है, क्योंकि बिल्डिंग मैं नहीं बांध रही हूँ. I am looking at it कि हाँ, it is very good for environment and it will give me some results. But अगर if the product does not meet, is not fit for purpose, window should work as a window. Okay, a door should be a door, and paint should do the work of the paint. So sustainability हो ना हो, वो जिस चीज के लिए बना है वो चीज वो आप हमको देखना पड़ता है. तो क्वालिटी टीम इन्वॉल्व हो जाती है इसमें. तो it takes time.
Okay, I think we are already crossed 15 minutes. So I think it was a great, excellent engage of thoughts, and thanks both the speakers, Dr. Sunita Purushottam and Mr. Purit Agarwal, for your thought-provoking insights and thoughts. I think there are a lot of things that came to light, and I believe that all the participants will benefit from this. There are a couple of links which have been shared in the chat box. You can have a look at it and maybe keep it with you. Very important one. We also shared the YouTube link of this particular webinar, which you can go back and check again whenever if you want. So with this, thank you once again, both the speakers, for accepting our invitation and for joining us. And also to all the participants for joining today's event. With this, I would like to close this webinar, and I look
Rakesh,
forward to, yes,
Rakesh, can you share the presentation made by both presenters?
I will request them to share with me, and
Participants,
then
yeah, to the participants who has attended the program.
I will request them, and then we'll take. Yeah. Thank you all,
Thank
and
you.
have
Thank
a
you,
great
everyone.
day. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We had
Look
fun.
forward. Take care.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr.
Bye.
Sunita. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr.
Bye.
Rahil.
Thank you.